Explaining NFTs to other people is hard. I've struggled with this. Maybe you have too. I think most people, even those in the NFT space, don't really get the power and the versatility of this technology. If the right picture is worth 1,000 words, the right metaphor is worth 1,000,000 and maybe more. After failing to explain NFTs many times, I came up with a metaphor which I think works fairly well. Even if you think you know what NFTs are, this may open up more perspectives for you. I've tested this on many people, as have others I've told it to. It seems to work. Keep watching if you'd like to be able to better understand and explain what the hell NFTs are. Hi everyone, my name is Daniel Tenner, aka Swombat, and in these videos I use my 15 years of experience as a successful entrepreneur working with hundreds of tech startup founders to bring some clarity to Web3 and NFTs. Also, this video is sponsored by Zen Academy, which is Zeneka's community where he's gathering good people from all around the world to learn and succeed together. There's no exchange of money, but we get along well and we're both trying to help people understand NFTs better, so we decided why not talk about each other more. Now, we tend to understand new things best by comparing them to old things. This is why analogies and metaphors can be so effective in communicating new ideas. NFTs are like digital pieces of paper. Now, pieces of paper are an incredibly powerful and versatile technology, but trying to describe exactly why that is pretty difficult, just like with NFTs, because they have so many different uses. Pieces of paper can be used to draw on. You can draw diagrams on them to understand or to explain things, org charts, flow diagrams. You can draw pictograms to communicate. You can draw pretty pictures and make art. You can paint on them and make different art. You can draw schematics for complicated devices or plans for building skyscrapers and use them to communicate with large teams to get things done. You can sketch people's faces to help the police recognize them. You can also make art or constructs with the paper itself in 3D, from origami to elaborate sculptures made out of books. You can wet the paper and turn it into papier-mâché and make a solid object out of that. Apart from drawing, you can also write on pieces of paper. You can write anything you can think of. You could write a message to someone, or a poem, or a story, or a whole book. It could be a book of fiction you've dreamt up, or it could be a book of facts that you've observed. You can write your own personal diary to your future self. You can write to someone who died a long time ago and get stuff off your heart. Or write to someone who isn't born yet. You can try to communicate any ideas or wisdom that you're aware of to pretty much anyone, dead or alive, just with pieces of paper. You can write on pieces of paper to keep a ledger. With these pieces of paper, then you can operate a business or a stock market or any kind of organization that needs to keep track of things. You can write arguments on pieces of paper, perhaps contracts. You can write down laws. You can write down the details of court cases. You can run a whole justice system with just pieces of paper. You can record history, and you can also rewrite it and lie about it. You can even record music on paper. You could write the entire arrangement for an orchestra on pieces of paper. Are we done yet? Hell no. You can use pieces of paper to represent money and wealth. You can represent it indirectly too, as debt obligations or promissory notes or property deeds or shares or derivatives contracts. You can define a nation's founding principles on a piece of paper and use it to inspire the creation of a whole new country. You can organize humanity in new ways. You can make identification papers and passports out of pieces of paper. You can use pieces of paper to allocate life support. You can use pieces of paper to save lives. Pieces of paper are an awesome technology with an incredibly widespread impact throughout our society. And since they became cheap and widely available, they put huge amounts of powers into everybody's hands, multiplying what was possible with more expensive, more cumbersome substrates that came before. If you had to explain to someone in the European 11th century why pieces of paper were going to be such a foundational, transformative technology, though, you might have struggled, just like with NFTs. Perhaps you might have focused your explanation on a specific use. Hey, you know that ledger you've been keeping on expensive wax tablets or parchment? How about paper instead? Now your ledger is more durable and cheaper. Neat, is it not? By now, I think most people presented with a suggestion that pieces of paper have been a foundational, fundamental, super versatile technology that changed the world will accept that truth as obvious. So NFTs are a lot like that. NFTs are digital pieces of paper that last forever, auto-magically keep track of everything that's happened to them, can do clever stuff, and can be sent around the world instantly. Depending on the blockchain they're on and how they're designed, they also perhaps are uncensorable and impossible to eliminate once created. They're like magic, somewhat intelligent, indestructible pieces of teleporting paper. And just like pieces of paper, you can use them for all sorts of things, though we're still only at the beginning of discovering all their potential uses. You can use them to store art or even generate it, because unlike regular paper, they are dynamic and programmable. You can use them to store and send messages. You can also use them to store and send music in various forms. Because they're smarter than regular paper, NFTs are also very good at recording contracts. You can program the agreement you make into an NFT if you want, with some limits. You can specify how the pieces of paper will be able to behave in the future. You can put any information you want in this new format. You can make NFTs with articles in them, or NFTs with links to articles. You could publish a novel in an NFT. You can, and people already do, serve legal papers as NFTs. You can store your identification papers as NFTs, as South Korea is already planning to do countrywide, or just an authentication token for a website or a club. And you can use NFTs to represent money and wealth and related things, of course. An NFT can be an analog of a share, or a promissory note, a debt obligation, and so on. And of course, as has been popular in the last couple of years, that means that you can run Ponzi schemes using NFTs. It's almost a law of nature. If something can be used to exploit people's greed and run a Ponzi scheme, it will be. Well, NFTs are versatile enough to do that too, as we've seen. NFTs are like pieces of paper in their broad, adaptable scope, but they are better than pieces of paper in many ways. Now, not all of those users are smart, just like not all the things you can do with pieces of paper are worth doing, but they're all possible, because NFTs are just that versatile. They can be made into an infinite variety of things. The point of this metaphor, of course, is not to suggest that NFTs are exactly like pieces of paper. It's to get across the idea that they are a foundational, fundamental, incredibly versatile technology with nearly infinite uses. This is what makes them so hard to explain succinctly. In my experience so far, even people who have never encountered Web3 or crypto, and even those who are slightly hostile to it, instinctively grasp the potential of NFTs when explained with this metaphor. Then when I start talking about a specific use case for NFTs, like my favorites, the Kickstarter on steroids model, they can see how, yeah, of course, you could use digital pieces of paper for this. It's easy to accept then. In my experience, you don't need to use as many examples as I used earlier to get the point across. Once the other person understands that pieces of paper are an infinitely versatile and foundational technology, it's a good time to shift into explaining how NFTs similarly have so many use cases. Then once they get that, move into the specifics that you actually wanted to talk about. By the way, if you'd like an even better understanding of how NFTs work technically, so you can better figure out how they'll end up being used in practice, here's a video I made, which goes into a bit more detail, but is still super easy to understand. GM, and good luck.